Friday, July 5th. Ordinarily a day very poorly attended in markets and everywhere else, and on which nothing happens. Not today. The first Friday of every month, the Labor Department produces the estimate of jobs created or lost in the immediately prior month. Would the Labor Department delay until next Friday when everybody might be on hand? No. So out came the June numbers. 6:30 Colorado time this morning. Now, the world was primed for bad news, for poor job results, and which would mean the Fed at its meeting on July 31st might cut 0.5%. And so Wednesday before the 4th, long-term rates had already gone down because everybody just knew the American economy's falling apart. 6:30 this morning, no, it's not. A perfectly healthy 225,000 new jobs. The unemployment rate actually went up, which means the workforce grew, which means there are more people out there to be hired. And so there's a certain amount of scurrying around and redeployment today, which is probably not complete because there's so few people at trading desks. The rest of the economic data about the U.S. that came out this week is just fine. There's nothing here in the U.S. that would justify a Fed cut of any size. The action is overseas. And I repeat myself, but there is some news. It's not in Japan. Japan's toast. There isn't anything it can do, but it's not an emergency. Japan holds together as long as its central bank can hold it together. There's nothing new in China either. China's got terrible structural trouble involving a huge chunk of the economy owned and operated by the party for the benefit of the party and not for the economy, which does damage to a lot of people inside China and outside China. But China, no matter what pressure is applied to China, especially public pressure, China cannot change quickly. It can do some little things, but it's got an internal political lockup that's far worse than ours, where changes may appear. Maybe. It takes tremendous optimism, but change is underway in Europe. Europe needs 2 new presidents. It needs a new president of the European Commission, which is the European Union. The current one, whom nobody really likes, is leaving. And it needs a new chair for the new president of the European Central Bank. And politics in Europe. Dang. The euro appeared in 1999. Since then, all of Europe has done everything in its power to keep Germans away from the central bank for fear of what they might do to everybody. And so the first president of the ECB was from Holland, Wim Duisberg, and the second was Jean-Claude Trichet from France, and the third from Goldman Sachs in Italy has been Mario Draghi. The Europeans this week settled on Christine Lagarde, and she's great. She's been at the IMF, she's been the French finance minister. Slightly improbable, she was a Chicago antitrust lawyer for many years, and before that was an intern to Congressman Bill Cohen of Maine. And she knows exactly what she's doing. She knows where all the bodies are buried. She's not afraid of anybody. She's tough, creative, and if anybody is going to make the Germans move, that's Christine. In order to get her at the ECB, the rest of Europe had to allow a German to be president of the EU. She is the current German defense minister. She's only been in politics for 15 years and is unlikely to amount to anything, as is the European Parliament and so on. But Christine Lagarde may change the game. The game, since 1999, has been a euro too strong for everybody but Germany and too weak for Germany, which has been a huge help to German exports, which are now far more predatory than anything that China is doing. And Lagarde may be the one to convince the Germans that if the Euro project is to continue, the Germans have to begin to behave like Italians. The Germans have to spend, and they have to import things from the others. They can't just export. The other prospect for change this week, of course, is here. in which the only real reason for the Fed to cut the cost of money is tariffs that the U.S. has imposed, which is hurting both the U.S. and the outside world, and which are unnecessary. Compare and contrast the likelihood that Christine Lagarde will be able to make the Germans change plans with the chance that someone or anyone here will be able to change Mr. Trump's plans. I can't solve that one. Have a nice weekend.